Hi guys, and welcome to my dungeon guide for the return to Empyrean Core. In this video I will be going over all of the mechanics for each boss and what you need to do to avoid the mechanics as a DPS. I'll explain each boss one by one with a respective video following it showing you how it's done. For some reason Tryon decided to make the dungeon nearly the exact same as before, so it's pretty easy if you have already done the dungeon in the old version. So, the first boss is called Baird. There are 4 things that you can do on this boss to help with the mechanics. So, the first thing is that when the boss is casting Manic Assault, if you do have an interrupt, make sure you do this. The tank should usually do it, but I usually like to have the DPSs do it as well, just in case the tank fucks up. If you don't interrupt this, it will pull the furthest player away from the boss and deal a ton of damage to them. Similarly to the old version, 2 cones of red AoE will come out from the boss directly, and your job is to stand in the safe area between the 2 red zones. If you don't, you will get 1 shot, so it's kind of important that you do. It does this ability twice in a row, moving the cone to where the safe spot was before, so just be ready to move twice. The boss will also use an ability called Spur Growth during the fight, which spawns a flower in the room. To my knowledge, the spawn location is completely random, so you'll have to find it once it has been cast. You need to kill this flower as soon as possible, otherwise annoying AoE start spawning everywhere. And the last mechanic for this boss is that it will randomly teleport to a side of the room. You need to line of sight the boss with the pillar in the middle to avoid it dealing damage to you when the bombs explode. It will teleport 3 times before going back into normal state, of which you then have to stop line of sighting and you can carry on DPSing. The second boss, or bosses, is Caliban's Bodyguards. This fight is really easy depending on how your tank places the bosses, as that really does affect the fight a lot. Your tank should aggro Strauss so that it's right next to Mercutial to make the entire boss fight a ton easier. I have found that killing Mercutial first to be the easiest, although some people will disagree with this just because of the mechanics of the bosses, but in my opinion it's the best way. So start off the fight by killing Mercutial, and then shortly into the fight Strauss will cast Siphoning Vortex, which pulls all players into him, and he will do this multiple times within that cast. At nearly the same time as this, Mercutial will have a purple zone around her, and you have to make sure that you're standing in the purple as it is a safe zone, otherwise you'll take a lot of damage. There will also be red AoEs coming out from Strauss that deal quite a lot of damage if you stand in them, so try to avoid them as well. And the last mechanic that you really need to be aware of is that a yellow AoE will spawn on a random player. If that player wants to, you can get rid of all of the red AoEs on the floor by bringing your yellow one over the top of them. Dr. Perfidus is the third boss and is really simple for the DPSers. Start off by running near the middle of the room next to the boss, and at the start of the fight a big ad will spawn and you just need to kill that to help the tank take less damage. Now you have two options from here. If you have a weak tank or a weak healer, you will probably need to DPS the other ads around the room, otherwise the tank may die, whilst the boss has his shield up. You then need to look for a water elemental which looks like a white blob. The tank should pull the blob on top of the boss or near the boss, and you then have to kill it to get rid of the boss's shield. Take note that you should never kill the elemental when it is not under the boss or near it, as it won't take the shield away from the boss. Once the shield is down, you're free to DPS it. If you have enough DPS in your group, then you can kill it without having to do anything else. But if you do have the lower DPS, the boss will put a shield back on and you need to repeat the step with the elemental. Core is the fourth boss, and again it is quite easy. It's best to go ranged on this boss, although it is possible to go melee, but only once you fully understand the boss mechanics. It will cast radiation at random points during the fight, which makes a red AoE spawn on top of him. If you are standing in the AoE, you will take a ton of damage, so make sure that you're not standing in it. Once radiation has been fully cast, the boss will start chasing a player, and if it's chasing you, then you need to kite it away, or kite away from the boss until it stops. After the chase has stopped, it will throw everyone up into the air and throw you backwards. So the idea here is that once it has stopped chasing, you are near one of the walls around the edge of the room, of your entrance towards the boss, so that you're not thrown into the water. At about 25% HP on the boss, it will go into frenzy mode. You have two options for this part of the fight, either all stack in the exact same place or spread out. If you spread, the boss will randomly dash to players and stun them, but luckily in this stage the boss literally does no damage, so it's just more of an annoyance with the stuns. If you decide to stack, then a red AoE will be on you guys, so the healing will need to be decent to be able to heal everyone up. And the final boss is Prince Caliban with all of its amazing loot. Again, it's best to go ranged for this fight, but melee is an option once you understand the mechanics. If you see the boss casting Vitality Leech, make sure you interrupt it. I think otherwise it places a dot on a random target. The tank should also be facing the boss away from the group so that the red cone of damage is facing away from you, but just make sure that you aren't standing in it, just in case the tank fucks up. If you see the boss casting Princely Radiance, you need to turn away from the boss, otherwise it will blind you and you won't be able to use any abilities for a few seconds, which can be crucial, especially if you are a healer. And the last thing is that the boss will target a random player to trample. It will start this mechanic by throwing everyone backwards into the wall around the room and will then shout a player's name. It will charge at that player, so if it's you, then dodge where the boss goes. And that's it for today's video. Hopefully this has been helpful and you can now complete the return to Empyrean Core to get those wonderful trinkets and necklaces from the last boss. If this has helped, please like it and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you wish to see more of my content in the future. Thanks for watching and see you guys next time.